Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt. Hello, everybody. I'm from Delta CX, wearing the shirt today. And we are a full-service CX and UX consultancy and agency. We do projects, training, and consulting. And welcome to what I think is episode 146. Did I get that number right? I'd better check. What I think is episode 146. Is it 147? 174, it's 176. Oh man. Welcome to episode 176. Hey, we're going to talk about debating today. I've seen that some conferences offer debating as one of the things you can go and see at the conference. And I always wonder, does anybody really want to watch a debate? Do debates help people? Are debates really giving you useful, actionable information? Are they meaningful, actionable, and helpful? So I want to turn this into a discussion. I hope the people who joined today will tell me what they think. Also, as always, I want to thank the people who are donating to the channel through YouTube. Thank you for keeping me in streaming software and chocolate chips. I have to update this list, so sorry it's still outdated. But today I'm going to be reading you my recent Medium article about this whole debating thing and why I don't like it. But I would love to hear from you, because maybe you think debates at conferences are great. Maybe you think the Delta CX channel should have debates. I want to know. So we're going to jump right in, and I am going to share my screen where I've got my Medium article up. Let's see if I can press the right buttons today. How about this one? Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, it's me and the chat room and my screen and the optional tip jar. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story, and then I want to open it up to what you think. You're welcome to write comments and questions as I read the article. The chat room should show YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch comments. So, and if you like the article, you can find it on Medium. You can just look up, "Should we debate? I was uninvited to a conference." There's a little foreshadowing there. Also, I got a new microphone for my new microphone, so if I don't sound good, please let me know. We are running the heat. It's very, very cold here, but if the heat sound is bothering people, please let me know. I know some people said it sounds to them like a squeak or a whine, but we'd love to keep the heat on if possible. All right, so here is the article. I applied to a well-known UX conference that said that one of their 2023 topics would be the democratization of research. I don't know anybody more against that than I am, so I proposed my new for 2023 conference presentation, "Don't Democratize UX Research and Governance for Those Doing It." I'm the only person I know of with a governance model, so I'm excited to get that out there for people who do want to democratize or are stuck doing it. I got a reply saying that the committee loved my submission, but they're thinking maybe this will be a debate instead of a presentation. This was my reply to them with, of course, their names removed. Quote, "I'm excited that the committee liked my proposal. I'd love to be a part of the event, so technically it's a yes to everything. But I'd like to suggest that it not be a debate. Some reasons. 1. Debates often look like negative, grumpy matches where one or both people look like they lost. We rarely walk away with anything actionable, and even the winner can look bad. I don't want anybody to look bad. And I want the audience to have actionable ideas and models. Most people tell me they need more ammunition against democratization. I would rather spend allotted time helping people with that than the attendees hearing people argue over what should be bloody obvious by now." 2. Speaking of making people look bad, some UX leaders and authors are for democratization because it makes money. There is no money to be made in telling companies that researchers can't be quickly trained or upskilled. Name, and others make noticeable money telling companies they can come in and train product managers and others to do research or be researchers. Put me up against one of the people making money from pro-democratization training, and when I ask them how much money they're making doing that, it's going to look like I'm personally attacking them. I don't want to personally attack anybody, but I want to know when people have a horse in a race. 3. Should we be debating this? Should conference organization company, so admired and respected, take a stance on this? UX leadership is at fault for some of this. Some leaders look to the real thought leaders, like conference organization company. I would like to see people and orgs being less wishy-washy, especially about things that are actively killing our profession. Dilution, as I call it, cannibalizes our profession and closes jobs newbies and juniors should get. Why aren't we taking a clear stance on this? 4. I've already written 10,000 words against democratization. Many of them are in my new book, Customers Know You Suck. I'm attaching the PDF and EPUB of the entire book here. You're welcome. So I sent the conference the digital versions of my book so they could see what I was going to say about democratization. The book contains a chapter with replies to every pro-democratization argument I have heard, every single one. None of them stand up to logic or critical thinking, which means a debate could look ugly. These are the types of things that would be in my presentation, since this is the ammo everybody needs. We need to be able to undo the bizarre, illogical stuff coming from Kagan, Torres, and sadly some of what should be our own, like name, and others. In the PDF, start on page 161. Is CX a skill that anybody can have? Is my pre-democratization warm-up. It's not a pro-democratization warm-up. This is part of where all of this goes wrong. For example, the journey map isn't the skill. The research planning, recruiting, execution, analysis, synthesis, etc. are the skills. Because you can do all of those badly and still have a journey map. But at what quality? The anti-democratizing subchapter starts on page 163 and runs to page 173 where I show my governance model. That's the missing piece. All the unraveling spools on the planet can sing the "everybody's a designer" and hire me to train everyone to be a whatever songs, but nobody is overseeing this. It's extremely rare that anybody has set up standards and governance to make sure that if we're letting others stab at research, that we're truly better than we were before. The standards tend to be low and misguided. Did more research get done? Sure, you can get more done. But at what quality? At what costs? How were the customer outcomes? What are the long-term effects? Or of minimizing UX specialties. We live those outcomes daily as companies are on like year 6 of thinking that we just need artists who know Figma to do the UX or prototype the product manager's idea. We now have product management training that teaches you to quickly do research, design, prototype, and test. Extinction is increasingly possible. Why hire a UX pro when you have a product manager who can do it? We need more firm stances, and we need to train our leaders and workers on how to make change. 5. As you might imagine, I get invitations to debate people on various topics where I can be spicy. Design thinking, whatever that means this week, lean UX, complete garbage, UX education and certificates, oh, I have a story about that debate, etc. Nearly zero of these debates happen. I message people ahead of time and tell them how I will dismantle them, which I kind of done here. I'm then ghosted and the debate never happens. I once did a tech circus event where they had a pro-design thinking person, some random guy, and then me with an anti-design thinking presentation. Eventually, I convinced the pro-design thinking person. Hopefully, I have debated well enough here to convince you that a debate mostly serves to make one or both people look weak or aggressive. And debates are rarely actionable. Now that you heard two people bitch at each other, what can you go and do? Plus, most people already have a strong opinion on this. They aren't on the fence and are still figuring out which candidate they back. We need to train and equip our workers and leaders to fight democratization and the continued dilution, if not extinction, of decent UX work done by specialists. So that was the email I sent back to the conference. Wow, Deb, what happened next? The conference replied that they wanted to have a call with me to talk more about this, as they still might want a debate. Sure, let's plan that call. What I didn't know was that soon after I got that email, the rep I was emailing with and the conference marketing guy were laid off. Really? Right before Christmas? When your conferences are coming up and actively being planned? That didn't sit well with me, and I'm very sorry for how those people were treated. Then I was uninvited and gaslit. With the rep I was working with gone, I received an email from the head of the company that puts on the conference, a name nearly all of you would recognize. They told me that they decided they did want it to be a debate, but that they would move forward with another person because, quote, "We don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position," end quote. That's a direct quote. Say what? Do I look or sound uncomfortable debating? Is this some sort of fake empathy for feelings I'm not feeling? Are they pretending they are saving me from some emotional struggle they imagine I would have had by being part of a debate? Am I supposed to thank them for saving me from this great invented discomfort? I replied immediately and told them it was a yes, and debates aren't uncomfortable for me. They replied a day later saying, "Too late, the other person already said yes." They invited me to please apply to their future events. I don't appreciate being gaslit, and I told them so. I told them I will not apply to any of their events again. They know who I am and what I stand for. If they want me at an event, they can reach out and invite me. They just didn't want you, Deb. Oh yeah, I absolutely understand this conference not wanting to include me in the debate. I sent them all of my material ahead of time. They already knew that there was no pro-democratization argument that stood up to logic, critical thinking, or follow-up questions. They already know how I will dismantle every possible good reason to dilute UX research. They appear to want to replace me with someone who is not as good as debating, not as passionately against democratization, or both. Eventually, this conference will publish who is part of this debate, and we'll see who they chose, and we might be able to figure out why. That person may or may not know they were the person selected to be less successful in the debate than I would have been. And we'll get to who that is in a moment. Yes, I know this sounds egotistical, but having battled this topic for years, I know how conversations freeze and fall apart when I offer some of my points or ask some of my critical thinking questions. Action item for you. If you see a debate at a conference, especially if the topic is one where you know I'm passionate and ready for a debate, email that conference to ask why Debbie Levitt isn't on the debate panel. Why not? Let them know you wanted to see me as part of that, if you do. Maybe they'll re-add me. Hey, your presentation sounds good. Where can I see or hear this? Don't Democratize UX Research and Governance for Those Doing It is based on content from Chapter 12 of my new book, Customers Know You Suck. I've been accepted to some other 2023 conferences where I will deliver a 45-minute version. At UX Copenhagen, I'm going to do a 90-minute version, and I'll also be taking questions. I already have one company bringing me in for a private internal presentation. Let me know if you'd like this at your company. As it's one of my conference presentations, it will eventually be in the conference sessions playlist on the Delta CX YouTube channel. That will probably be end of March. I want to make sure these other conferences where I'm doing it get a little bit more of the exclusive first versions. So I ask you, and I want your opinions, whether or not you agree with me or half agree with me, should conferences hold debates? Panel discussions could be good. Each person talks about their experiences and their stance. They can take questions. The audience has some chance of learning from their real experiences. A debate typically has a winner and at least one loser. The goal of a debate is for people to battle each other over who is right or who has the better ideas. The audience may or may not leave with actionable advice on how to deal with situations related to the topic of the debate. Debates typically don't take audience questions. Conferences should aim for formats that are the most actionable and helpful to the attendees. Interactive workshops are probably the most actionable and helpful. Presentations focused on a topic or how-to might come in second. Panel discussions might come in third. Debates would be low on my list of meaningful, actionable, and helpful formats. I think about a debate somebody did a year or so ago, putting the guy from Safe Agile up against the Lean UX book guy, two of the main people responsible for UX being undone in so many companies. I couldn't stomach watching that, but more importantly, what came of it? Did we fix or solve anything? Did Safe change? Did Lean UX change? Evidently not. So what was the point? I want to debate you, Debbie, says the person in the audience. If you insist, though I apologize in advance for how it'll look to people when I dismantle your arguments through logic, critical thinking, and considering possible outcomes. But sure, get in touch. We can plan a live event. Pick any topic, and I'm ready. I did get a comment on this from a guy who said, I don't understand debates at all and I've got debates completely wrong, and he hopes that helps me. And I said, nope, that doesn't help me because you didn't tell me how I've got it wrong. Not helpful. I still have my book on the screen. What fun. I thought I pressed the buttons to make that go away. So the question is now to all of you, and it may be people who are watching the video later, commenting on YouTube. It could be people now. I see we've got 8 or 10 people joining us. What do you think about debates? What do you think about debates at conferences, debates at special events? And I mean debates in the UX and CX universe, not political debates or presidential candidates. Solomon says, I think it depends on the topic. Yeah, tell me where you think a debate is a great format or meaningful, actionable, helpful, versus where you don't want a debate. Carly Grace, hello, says, I like panel discussions as long as there is actual discussion, not just talking about themselves for 30+ minutes. Oh, we must have been to some of the same conferences. Oh my gosh, yeah, sometimes you get to these panel discussions and people are just like, oh, let me tell you a story about a project I did, and oh, let me tell you, and I'm just like, please tell me something that I can apply to my actual job. So yeah, I'm with Carly Grace on that one. I do like panel discussions. I think it can be a nice way to bring different points of view together, even ones that might disagree, without, to me, what's some of the accidental built-in negativity or aggression that you might find in a debate. Solomon says, for something very complex, it might be useful to know what arguments exist for or against some UX practices or processes. Okay, but we can still do that without a debate. That could be a presentation, it could be a panel discussion. I'm still not sure we need a debate. Elvina says they sometimes are helpful to see an opposite point of view, although only if it's plausible, logical, and backed up by something. Yes, I like that. Very true. You know, I don't know how this debate will end up going, this democratization of research one that I'm not going to be at. I don't know if it's going to be person number one says, well, it worked for me, and person number two says, I'm against it. You know, because how do you fight Mr. It worked for me? Well, actually, you can. I would start breaking that argument down. How do you know it worked for you? What were your success criteria? Well, when didn't it work for you? Did anybody do bad research? How did you oversee it? I think sometimes we end up with, well, it worked for me, and that's like the whole argument. Shweta says, I think debating requires some degree of humility and being open to being challenged. You can't debate if you don't acknowledge there could be a counterpoint. Carly Grace says, debates get too heated often, and I feel like a lot of the main points from a debate can come across better in a panel. I've got to agree there. I really do. That is my preference as well. I do think that debates can get adversarial and heated and ugly. Now, by the way, since they have announced who is part of the debate, the person who is in the anti-democratization seat instead of me is friend of the show, Dr. Ari Zelmanow. Now, I think he is a great choice. So, of course, I found that out after I wrote my Medium article where I said, well, surely they're going to pick somebody who is not as great as debating as I think I am, or not as passionate against democratization. I wouldn't say those things are true about Dr. Ari. I was surprised that they picked somebody, you know, that good, if I can put that in quotes or air quotes or no quotes. I think Dr. Ari is a good choice. I'm a little disappointed to be uninvited. I'm a little disappointed to be gaslit. And I'm certainly disappointed that this debate will be between two white guys. Now, I don't help the whiteness factor very much, but it's going to be two white guys, just like Safe, Agile, and Lean UX. So I think that another problem with the debate format is it's usually two people against each other, and I think at least on a panel we can try to have some more diverse voices, whereas the debate doesn't necessarily allow that. Solomon says, for example, people argue all the time about the distinction between UI and UX and whether it matters and which contributes more to overall business success. People argue the validity of specific applications of psychological effects like goal grading or aesthetic usability. Sure, we argue and disagree all the time, but yeah, and Elvina says, but does that help us with something? I'm not sure that means it should be a debate at a conference. Remember, chances are you've paid money to go to this conference. Is that a good use of the money you've paid? Are you hoping to see a debate? Maybe if you like drama and people fighting, maybe you like a debate. Maybe you like a debate for other reasons. I am not a fan of the debate format, even though I think I'm decent at it, and even though I have a very good track record of winning, I still don't like it. I know this was really long ago. Was anybody at the CPHUX online event a couple of years ago where I was debating this guy named Rolf, who I found out later was some UX celebrity, but I was debating this guy because he requested somebody to debate. So I was like, This guy requested somebody to debate because he had created a UX training and certificate and he wanted to debate somebody on it. He undid himself. He went first. He had a PowerPoint. He undid himself. I almost felt badly going next. He had already undone himself, and then I just had the nails in the coffin on that one. Oh, it was not good. And then afterwards, they did let the audience ask some questions and make some comments, and oh, he misunderstood some of the audience questions, and it got really heated, and actually the organizer of the conference, the meetup, ended it very abruptly. It was really wild because what happened was somebody said, hey, you know, I'm concerned about all of these 2-day UX trainings that give people a UX certificate and say that they're certified in UX, like what this guy was doing. And he said, the person asking the question from the audience said, some of the engineers at my company have done that, and now they're questioning everything I do. And I was like, oh, that sounds really bad. And this Rolf guy goes, isn't it great that they're asking questions? And I was like, oh. I mean, basically, I was completely catching on fire, and the organizer saw the look on my face change, and I think she saw me breathing in, and she was like, and that ends our event right now. Shweta says, how about polite debates amongst participants? If participants are asked to discuss different viewpoints without getting heated, it can prompt them to think critically, or is that a discussion? As opposed to only two people debating and the rest of the group listening in. Shweta, I don't think we're guaranteed critical thinking, even if it stays civil. I think there's no guarantee that any critical thinking happens. You know, if somebody shows up and says, I like democratization, I tried it, it worked for me, and I start chopping away at that, what if that person isn't thinking critically? I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Even if it's civil and friendly. You know, the debate I had with Rolf was absolutely civil and friendly, pretty much until the end, where I thought he was really tone deaf and really not understanding the concerns some audience members were raising about what seemed like an easy 2-day UX certificate, where if you answer a multiple choice question test and get 28 questions right out of 40, you're a certified UX expert, whatever it was. He just didn't see it. Solomon says, yeah, I think we're talking about discussions and conversations, which of course can absolutely be had in a panel format. There's nothing wrong with the panel format. It does not have to be a debate. I tend to think of a debate as being quite adversarial, like what we see on TV with political candidates debating. Again, that's my perception. I might be wrong. I might have the definition of debate wrong, and I'm open to being corrected there. The person who sent me the message, the person who commented on the article and was like, you have that all wrong. Did that help? No, that didn't help. If I have debate wrong, please tell me how I have it wrong, because I would love to be better informed and use the word more correctly in the future. But that's the way I see it. Let me do a quick Googling and see definition of debate. Debate. A formal discussion on a particular matter in a public meeting or legislative assembly in which opposing arguments are put forward. It usually ends with a vote. Okay, so it's a formal argument. And again, the word argument has multiple definitions, but again, maybe I'm just biased, but I feel like the debates that I've seen aren't always civil or friendly. They can be, they might not be. I don't know. Hey, Elijah's here. How you doing? Hey, Debbie, sorry this happened to you. Yeah, it's a little bit silly, but it doesn't matter. One of the biggest problems with public debates, especially, is that it's more about swaying the audience rather than critiquing the ideas. That's a really great point. Thank you for the critical thinking there. We do run the risk that the more charismatic person appears to have won the debate or appears to have the better argument or upper hand, even if they're talking crap, even if they're totally wrong, but they might appear to be swaying the audience. That's a great point, great critical thinking. That's something to look for, because I see that happen sometimes in LinkedIn conversations, and we've even gone through some of them in the Friday Practicing Critical Thinking streams, where we've seen Jared Spool battling somebody in some LinkedIn comments, and Spool's arguing technique, which I go through in great detail in some of these videos, is not to argue the original point. He opens up a whole bunch of different points, mostly irrelevant points, and that's designed to keep somebody off balance. You know, if we're debating the democratization of research, and I start talking about, but what about something unrelated? Now you would hope that a moderator would step in and control that. Will that happen? Will a moderator keep the debate on target? Will they keep it civil? I don't know. Elijah says, thus there's more incentive to turn it into a form of entertainment and propagandizing rather than a healthy argument. Great points. Again, great points. Happy you're here. And again, do we want arguments when we're attending a UX conference and we're hoping to learn stuff? We're hoping to learn stuff we don't know. We're hoping to get techniques we don't already have. We're hoping to upskill. We're hoping to have new things we can go back to our job and try. Will a debate give us that? Maybe. I tend to think unlikely, though of course it is possible, but I'm going to go with unlikely. All right. So if anybody else has any comments or questions, please put them up. I do want to hear your perspectives on this. Again, you've probably noticed that we've never had a debate on the YouTube channel in over, 3 years here. People challenge me to it with some frequency, at least a handful of times a year. Someone says something on LinkedIn or private messages me and says, I can't believe you're against design thinking. It's so important. I want to debate you on it. And I go, great, set it up. And I also say, but please note that I will probably make you look kind of foolish. I probably will dismantle all of your arguments. If you're comfortable with that, and if you're comfortable with that being online and archived and recorded, then we can go ahead. But warning, if you win the debate, cool story. If I win the debate or I look like I have the stronger argument, you could end up looking weak or foolish. Are you okay with that? And these never get scheduled. Never, never, never get scheduled. Other than that wacky one I did for Copenhagen. The Tech Circus one wasn't a debate. It was really just person 1 did a presentation, person 2 did a presentation, person 3 did a presentation with different perspectives, and then the audience could ask questions. I thought that format was good too. So let's talk about what's coming up on the show. Tomorrow we're having Michelle Ronson back to talk about freelancing and contracting as a UX researcher. I hope she'll have some really actionable advice for people thinking about being more of a freelancer. Monday, we're going to talk about my argument pyramid. Hold on, I can put it up, but I'm going to redo it over the weekend. Argument pyramid. And this is something we often bring up in critical thinking and other LinkedIn battles. People are rarely refuting the central point. They're usually doing all this other garbage. So we're going to talk about that, though I'm going to redo this pyramid over the weekend. Elvina says, what was the name of that phenomenon you described? Straw man fallacy? Yeah, I think, I don't think I mentioned the straw man fallacy today, but the straw man fallacy is a really common argument technique. Let me Google it so I can just give you the best definition so I don't mess it up. A straw man fallacy is a form of argument and an informal fallacy of having the impression of refuting an argument, whereas the real subject of the argument was not addressed or refuted, but instead replaced with a false one. The one who engages in this fallacy is said to be attacking a straw man. I think we saw, if I'm remembering this correctly, I think we saw an example of this of when on LinkedIn Jared Spool was fighting Dr. Ari, and Dr. Ari was talking about democratization, and Jared Spool started debating, what about the doctor who is an Afghan immigrant but can't be a doctor in America and is a taxi driver? And Dr. Ari was like, I think that's a straw man. Like, I'm not sure we're still talking about the democratization of research. We're talking about something else. And to me, it's a tactic to distract from the actual point of discussion. Jared Spool could argue the original point, but instead he opens up lots of little fires on a whole bunch of different unrelated topics, which of course puts the other person out of balance. So yeah, straw man is one of the many fallacies to know more about for sure. Let's see. Also next week, we've got Dr. Nick coming back on Tuesday. My internet's been holding up lately, so hopefully we'll have a successful Office Hours Ask Us Anything on Valentine's Day. Wednesday, of course, is the Customers Know You Suck book club. You can access that. It's on Google Meet through our calendar, deltacx.com/links, or in our Slack or Discord in the live events. Someone said the Slack and Discord links are broken. I'll work on those tonight. What else? Oh, I added a new show on Thursday the 16th by request from last week. People wanted to see my slides on how UX professionals and UX research, separately or together, pay for themselves, and some of the math I've done, since that would help you argue for that stuff. And then, of course, Friday the 17th, we're back to the critical thinking stream. So that's what's coming up. Thanks to people who have joined. I see a lot of people have joined late. If you're interested in the Medium article, you can start the video again. Otherwise, if you're just enjoying some of the discussion at the end, here you are. Let's see, that's about it for the show. I just wanted to read that article and get your opinions. I was curious if anybody thinks the Delta CX YouTube channel should be full of debates, but it sounds like people generally don't want to see that. They want to see actionable information and maybe some panel discussions for different perspectives, which is what we've been doing. So if you do have any suggestions for the content on the Delta CX channel, leave a comment here under the YouTube video, and I will answer you personally when I can. And if what you request makes sense, I will see if we can make it happen. Other than that, I'm going to play us out of here. I hope everybody will have a great rest of their Thursday, and I'll see you tomorrow with our guest, Michelle Ronson, to talk about freelancing and contracting as a UX researcher. Thanks, and see you later. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are